Canadian public school teachers told to queer outdoor learning. It's getting harder to believe that this is real. In British Columbia, the teachers union is urging 50,000 teachers to queer outdoor education, turning nature walks into lessons on gender fluidity, drag, and, quote, debunking heterosexuality in nature. Their own magazine promotes activities where kindergartners pull ivy as a metaphor for oppression, stare at clouds to question their gender identity, and use tree shapes to challenge whether male, female, or even right, wrong should exist. There's no lower age limit. This ignores the obvious. BC's ecosystem depends on male-female biology, yet teachers are told that even explaining reproduction reinforces, quote, colonial discourses. Why is this happening? Because Alberta pushed back on SOGI policies, these gender policies, and BC now feels compelled to double down, injecting gender ideology and anti-colonial narratives into every subject, even nature class. This isn't education, it's ideological experimentation on children, and it's destabilizing the foundations kids need to grow up in Canada. So what role should parents play when schools introduce ideology into every subject?
They should be playing the key role in all of this. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what schools should be for. Schools should be for STEM learning, creative learning, not ideology. This is bananas. What's more annoying to me on this whole thing is they're not doing it because they think it's the right thing to do. They're literally doubling. It's in there. They're doubling down because another government is saying, hey, we should stop this. So they're like, no. We need to expand even further. So I go, wait a minute. If you actually think this is what's right for children, explaining this stuff to them at this age, which is fucking bananas. Slap the shit out of that teacher. Is what it is. If you think that that's right and you've set a system, well, here's our system because this is what we know is right. And then you see your next door neighbor going, well, that's insane. I'm not going to teach my kids any of that. I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. So now all of a sudden that system that you implemented, you said, well, this is right. This is what we need to do. Now you double down and you increase this and go for even younger children. Well, then that tells me that you're only doing this to harm them. You're only doing this for ideological reasons. You're not doing this because it's effective, or else that lower double down foundation you're now building, that's what you would have used to begin with if this was the right thing to do. So clearly, this has nothing to do with what is right for children. It has to do with leveraging nonsense ideology and politics, using kids, the original and should still be the protected class, as fodder. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think, too, this is where it comes on to parents to really understand and take the time to learn what these ideologies are actually about in a way that you can put these teachers and administrators on the back foot and essentially remove their moral high ground that they think they have. They don't actually have it. But so, for instance, this is what queer theory argues, is that, everything's about oppressor versus oppressed, right? Whether it's white versus black, whether it's women versus men, whether it's straight versus gay, whether it's colonial versus colonized, whatever. All of these things. They just see the world through this lens. And what they suppose with queer theory is that the very concept of normal is oppressive because anybody that doesn't fit that category then becomes quote unquote marginalized, right? And so what they or put forward as the solution to that problem is, well, we just need to give kids identity crises because they've been brought up in this world to believe that there's a normal way to be. And so we need to essentially break their psyche in order to break them out of this oppressive structure of normal.
Yes.
And then you can be whatever the hell you want to be. And this is what they call liberation. And so it is extremely dark because they are trying to break your child's mind. And you know what? Even to steel man their side, I can actually see, because I've gone through 2 identity crises in my life. They're not fun. Where you just completely lose your sense of self. You have no idea who you are, what you should do, what your path forward is. You lose all solid ground. One of those was actually in COVID because I'd spent 10 years trying to go down a specific path with music and the hospitality world. And I just got my dream job as the live music director at a venue in Toronto. The band stuff was going well. And then COVID just completely ended that. And I as soon as I saw a couple months in that, oh, this isn't going anywhere, things are changing, then you go, oh, I have no idea who I am anymore. It's the same thing athletes experience after retiring. It's like, oh, who am I? What do I do now? Now there is actually some positive in that, in the sense where then you get to decide, all right, who do I want to be now?
You get a blank slate to work from.
Right. And so that's what they see themselves giving to these kids is, well, we're liberating you from all of these identities that have been thrust upon you, but it's not fun. It's not fun to lose your sense of self.
Well,
and I think the vast majority of people won't get out of that. They'll just end up in this limbo spot.
Well,
where
you're sort of confusing them about like fundamental truths that we have about biology, and you're stripping away shared truths. So to your point, you're actually forcing these kids to build a false foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to go through the process of trying to break that once they realize that it's not reality, if they ever get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, for parents that want to push back on this stuff, there's an excellent book by a guy named Logan Lansing. It was co-authored by James Lindsay as well, but called Queering of the American Child. And it talks all about these theories and goes through what the academics and the architects were trying to put forward with this ideology. Some of them being Judith Butler, Jose Esteban Munoz, David Halprin. And so I highly suggest picking up that book and then go to the teachers and go, hey, this is what you're doing. I think some teachers know what they're doing. I think the vast majority of teachers are what Marxists would call useful idiots. These architects, these academic types that look at them and go, yeah, these are just people that don't fully understand the ideas they're teaching. But expose them to this and then, actually put them on the back foot and say, I know what you're up to here. Or if you don't know what you're up to, that's even a bigger problem.
What I would just sort of say to wrap this part up is we need to correct course here, because this manufactured confusion we're putting kids into is not only going to potentially ruin their lives. Think about what it does to a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Think of what this does. If this is the prevailing narrative for children, they are eventually going to run this country, and they are going to teach generations after them. If you do not correct course on this at some point, the fallout is far more significant when these thought processes rule society.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Canada looks like, but I know it's not good.